So continuing on with integration, we can gamma slam up. So sometimes it's useful to gain up to check things, and that's how usually I would use the gain, and usually you can spot things, but sometimes it's a little bit more obvious with gamma. So if you gamma up, we can actually see our blacks are still quite a bit off in terms of like this level of black and this. And again, it's like I said, I think it's a little bit darker here than it is here. But what we could do is, rather than just keep trying to lift this and pushing that around, we're going to need to, we could kind of adjust the blacks of the background. So not everything is going to be equally lifted. So that could be because this is a process image or whatever. But if we take the roto and just kind of go here and kind of feather this backwards, what we can do is take the black point and just shift it down just very slightly, not that much, probably just around 0.001 or 0.002, something like that. And that's going to help us feel like this is sort of in the same range, this type of picture. And I'll take this and duplicate it and just flip it as well. So I'm going to put it on this side, and just so we can get some darker values in the background. So not everything is super lifted. Otherwise, everything kind of feels a little bit cut out if everything is sort of in that lifted range. And we could even exaggerate this very slightly more, I think, probably to 0.3, and then just reduce it on this side. So it's a little bit more on this side. This side's just a bit too much now, so I can reduce it back with the opacity of the Bezier curve. So if we disable it and we enable it, you see how it starts to make the image start to feel like it kind of goes together. And those little changes, even though we're way gamma up, it really actually helps making it feel like that goes together. And those are the subtle things that will really make a difference. So the next things we can start to do is I'm going to start to play around with just the overall picture. Actually, first thing we can do that's really easy, let's get rid of this orange that's on his sleeve. So we would just go here and put a hue correct just at the end. And we'll plug it in and grab a roto and just sort of isolate that little orange area. And what we can do is sort of select it. So turn overlay on, Control Shift select that, and then we'll just grab it, put a dot here, and then just reduce the saturation of that area. Something like that. We can even expand that region a little bit. Something like that. And then we can we could take the green and the red down, and that's going to sort of give us. So if you control, if you shift select, you can have both these at the same time. And just take the red down a little bit more even. So we don't want it to look purple. So that's working pretty well. Let's give it like a neutral sort of bluish color. And then we'll just rotor that through so we have that not drawing our eye to it. And we might need to expand our color selection range a little bit. It looks like we get a little bit of kind of banding. So just go to those two layers and sort of bring those down as well. And just even here we could do the same thing. If you don't make this curve like soft enough, you get these weird like banding in here. So that's something to keep in mind. We'll probably need to darken that edge as well. Now that I'm looking at it, we have a little bright edge on the armpit there. So again, we're getting some little weird edges. So if I go back to the red, we just need to soften that. Sort of soften it and do the same thing with the red here. And it might be that the saturation, we could do the same thing. So we could just sort of bring those things together. So if I go to the red, yeah, there we go. So now it's fixed. So yeah, if you don't do that the right way, you can get some little artifacts in there. So you got to be careful. And yeah, that's working pretty well. We will have to adjust it in terms of like the brightness of that area, but it should be okay for now. Okay, so let's start working on the background. I'm gonna put some grades before this black adjustment, and maybe we'll do it before all of our tweaks here. So we'll do all the color corrections before, except for the blacks, and just start to play around with our picture a bit. So I'm gonna ping out some highlights in the background so it doesn't feel so flat. So looking at that building is the first thing I'm looking at. Just gonna go in there, isolate some of the windows, and just go with a grade and start to bring them up a little. You don't want to go too much because it might start to look overly, bright on that side. But even just this, even on the whole background, it might even be that's what it needs. Even on the background, it seems to be helping just to bring some life into it by bringing out the highlights. So we can even push it up more for these areas just to see. So here it's too much now, but maybe there. We don't want to make it too much because it might be a little bit hard on the eyes if it looks speckly. So just be careful with how far we push this. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. What we could do now, I'm still playing around with this, so we might go back and forth a little bit here. But I'm going to go here and sort of, what would be nice is if there was some kind of haze or something between him and the building here. Like, I know that this light might not be from the same direction as this building, but it would be nice to feel some sort of a connection. Because right now, he still feels a little bit unconnected from the whole scene. So I'm going to put these as the black adjustments, just so we don't do our corrections past there, because those are the kind of the areas that we want to keep. We don't want to adjust the blacks anymore, really. So what I'm going to do is pull a key of our plate and sort of pull out some highlights on him. And we'll see if we can sort of mimic some light coming from maybe the left side of the building over there. So if we do that and basically plug it into a grade, so we can boost it with a grade. And what we can do is just sort of mask that to the areas that are on the left side. So we could do something like this and just sort of feather it to make it feel like there's some light interacting from that building over there. So something like that. It might be a little bright on this elbow. We can boost it a little bit more on the body, though, potentially. So something like that. It's just bringing these two brightness levels together, because right now they're still a bit disconnected. So we can just bring it down a little bit. And we might need to bring down the building just a tad. The building's quite bright now, so I'll go back to the building adjustment. I mean, this is doing the whole background, but I'm just going to reduce it slightly over the building. So I'll just put a rotoshape and sort of just go in there and do a very slight multiply down. Maybe just a little bit down. And what we could do as well is, because his colors on him are a little bit kind of bluish, we could sort of match those colors. So we could either desaturate his highlights to make them feel more in this tone, or we could add some of that like purplish tone into the building. So let's just try the building first and see if it looks good. That's way too much, but let's just try a little bit. Yeah, I think we'll probably go more neutral on his highlights rather than adding this sort of bluish, slightly purple tone. But But you see how if we look close, look at the highlight color of his elbow, and look at the highlight color and just the colors of the building. It's a little bit more green and neutral, but if we do that, now they start to feel a little bit closer. But I do like having this white, so just in terms of an image. So I think I'm going to go the other way around. So I'm going to go with this highlights and make them slightly more green, so taking slight purple out. So for example, we could even do a little grade. So I'm just copying these keyers and keying the highlights, and trying to match those colors. So I don't want that bluish kind of thing. I'm going to go slightly green to see if we can get closer. So if you look at them now, it's starting to feel kind of more connected. You also must remember that this is a material, so it's going to absorb color. So it might be slightly darker than the actual light itself. You know, if you shine a white light on a green surface, the surface, it's going to be green. It's not going to be just white. So it can absorb color as well. You got to think about that. But the white point, we don't want like a purple. You know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So that's kind of cool. We can use the same roto to mask it. So I'm just going to go like this. It's kind of weird, but it works. And maybe we'll just bring that roto higher. Wait, let's make sure. Let's make a copy of that roto, I think. Because if we brighten it, it starts to look a little too bright. So we'll copy this roto. And we'll use one for the color adjustment and one for the brightness adjustment. So the color adjustment, I want it to be a little bit more strong, so I'm going to bring it all the way up. But the light adjustment, we're keeping it a little bit further away. So let's go back to the start frame and then try to make this work for the whole sequence now. So we can go here with our brightness shape and just bring it over just a tad. And we might want to darken some of this. I know that this light, again, it's coming from the front, so we can't justify all of this lighting from a building that's kind of off to his back. But it would be nice to have a hint of it, so that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm probably going to darken some on the inside here just so it feels a little bit more backlit, even though that's not what's happening. And then I'm using the color adjustment here. So I'm doing the brightness and the color separately, 2 different nodes. And okay, so let's try another roto shape here and just sort of do it on the inside of his coat and just see if we can maybe bring this down. Let's just see if that would be something that would be aesthetic. So we can kind of fade that off and do something like that. And maybe we could keep these a little brighter so it looks like some of this light is traveling not over his coat, but these are further up, so they might catch the light again. So we'll leave those in the brightness, but we'll leave his coat in the darkness. Something like that. So if you disable this and enable it, we have sort of a flat image, and now we're sort of shaping the light to make it seem like it's interacting with our scene. So I'm going to keep rotoing that through so that we get sort of that illusion. And we just need to check our blacks again to make sure that we're not breaking anything. And we might be, so we might need to just pull that back a little tiny bit. We have the blacks after, so it's okay, but you don't want to make it overly contrasty. You know, it's still working, but you just got to be careful. Yeah, his face right now, what's happening is we're adding some contrast to his body, and that's making his face feel a little flat. So either we can bring his face down and maybe mix that back. And we could even bring this up the shoulder a little bit as well. Just got to be real careful with stuff like this. If we look at the original, it's because our original footage is so flattened because by our glow. So that makes it a kind of tricky thing to grade. You see how flat, there's no contrast. So we're really forcing all that contrast in there. And that's why there's no detail in this shirt, because of how it was shot. So unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. But yeah, we'll just take this shape and sort of finish off what we were doing. So we were kind of darkening a little bit and sort of darkening his face slightly. So I'll just hop to the last frame there. And I'll just feather off this shape as well. You really want to feather all your shapes. Otherwise, you're going to get hard edges that will appear. And we'll go to the start. So technically, he's swinging this belt thing through our grade that we're doing, but it's so soft, the grade that we're doing, that you're probably not going to notice. So that's okay. So if we go back to normal exposure, let's just compare back and forth. So it's just adding a bit more interest. Might be too much green. Looks like his jacket is actually more green here, but less green here. So kind of annoying, but we could just take our roto that's doing the color and just not add green to the part that's already very green. So we just take a little roto shape and minus it from that spot. Yeah, so I think it's just adding color there now. It's not adding more green to there. We might need to actually desaturate that part. It just looks like there's one spot on his elbow that looks super green for some reason. So I'm just trying to not add more green to it, basically. If I go back, maybe that might even be our hue correct that might be causing it. Yeah, it is. So our hue correct is a little bit strong there. Looks like we got too far in there. So our hue correct was causing that. Because we're trying to get rid of the orange, so it's kind of putting a little green in there. So just got to be careful. We don't want to apply it too far onto his shirt there. Cool. So I'll let this kind of cache through and we can compare back and forth, see where we're at, see what we're thinking. And then we'll start that one in the next lesson.